Hey guys, good morning. So we're going to be trying our first attempt at a flipped classroom. It's something I think you guys are going to really like. It lets you have a lot more control over what's going on and lets us move it at your own pace a little bit more easily. So what I'd like you to do, please, is get out your Reading Street book. You should already have your Chromebook, of course, if you're listening to this. And you're also going to need your passage self-monitoring guide and discussion sheet, which looks like this. Anytime during the recordings, feel free to pause playback, feel free to rewind things. So if you need to hear something again, you can rewind it. If you just need a minute to write something down or get out your materials, you can pause it. And we're going to keep going. So turn to page 24 in your Reading Street book, and you'll see the comprehension skill, literary elements, character and plot, and the comprehension strategy, monitor and clarify. And then on the other page is Brave Melissa. So the first thing we'll do is go through the comprehension skill and strategy. On your discussion guide, you want to write these down. So the title of our passage is Brave Melissa. The comprehension skill is literary elements. The comprehension strategy is monitor and clarify. Now, these sections where it says how can I use this skill, how can I use this strategy, we don't necessarily get to fill in yet because we don't know how we can use them because we aren't maybe sure what they are. So let's go take a look back on page 24. Literary elements, character and plot. Characters are the people or animals in a story. Plot is the pattern of events in a story. Usually plot happens in sequential order. Whenever we're talking about a fictional or a fake or a made-up story, that is true. When we get into nonfiction stories, then you'll see that they can be organized in some different ways. A plot has a conflict or problem, so we know that that comma is going to give us a clue that they're going to give a definition for the word conflict. Conflict means problem. Rising action when the conflict builds. A climax when the character meets the conflict. That can also be when a major change in the story occurs or a problem is solved. And a resolution when the conflict is resolved. Things get brought to a close. You don't have really any questions left about the story. They give an example of a graphic organizer that you can use here to help keep track of the events in a story. We'll go on with it. We will go over another one as well. All right, so now thinking about literary elements and plot, how can I use that skill? How can knowing about the characters and knowing the way that a story is organized help you better understand the story? And this is going to be different for everyone, so we have to think for ourselves. For me, I might write knowing the events and characters in a story can help me better understand a complicated text by keeping myself organized. This last part's really important. Simply saying that it'll help you understand doesn't really show that you understand the skill. The keeping myself organized part, however, shows that you do understand that looking at the characters and understanding how a story's organized is going to be effective in helping you know what's happening. All right, let's go on to the strategy. Monitor and clarify. Good readers check their understanding as they read. If you don't understand something you are reading, pause. Ask yourself, what don't I understand? Try creating a sensory image to help you understand the story, then read on to find out what happens. Excellent strategy here, guys. Whenever we're reading, good readers are going to pause every now and then and think, what happened in the story? Who were the characters involved? Where did they go? What did they do? What motivated them? What made them want to do this? if we stop every few pages when we're reading and just do that minute self-summary where you think about those parts of the passage, and then you have to come to the realization that either, yeah, I get it, or no, there are some things that I missed here. I need to refocus, go back, and reread those couple pages. Absolutely critical. If you can do that, your reading comprehension is going to go up big time. All right, so monitor and clarify. How can we use this strategy? I can stop and do a quick mental summary. And if I realize I'm confused, I can reread that section of the passage. Okay, so that just shows me that you understood what the two skills were. Now let's go back and take a look at Brave Melissa. First, we're just going to read it together, so follow along with me. Most people around town knew Melissa as a sweet girl who walked her big yellow dog every day. Whether the sun was shining or freezing rain was pouring down, Melissa always walked her dog before and after school. One winter day, the snow was coming down so fast that the sidewalk became very slippery. Melissa fell and dropped her dog's leash. The dog got confused and kept walking to the beach where he and Melissa would go during the summer. The dog was so confused that he headed toward the lake and accidentally fell through the frozen water. By this time, Melissa and half the town were at the beach. Without hesitating, Melissa reached her hand toward the dog and pulled him from the freezing water. The dog had always seemed twice her size, but today Melissa looked like a giant. Luckily, both Melissa and the dog escaped serious harm. So now let's take a look at the skill sections. What is the story's conflict? We know conflict is problem because of the definition that came earlier. How do Melissa's actions influence the story's conflict? So now think for a second. What's the problem in the story? And if we look, it's kind of giving us a clue here. The dog got confused and kept walking to the beach. So if I had to define the conflict, I would say it was when the dog got lost and Melissa wanted to find him. If we don't understand something, another thing we can do is create a sensory image. Sensory images involve your five senses: what you see, what you hear, what you feel, what you smell, and what you taste. In this case, the story is really giving us a lot of visual and feeling-based sensory images. We know what it's like to be freezing and cold, so we can picture a frozen lake. We can see the beach. We can imagine that there's probably frost on the ground, possibly some light snowflakes coming down. So we can create that mental image in our mind to help us understand the story better also. And at the end, what is the story's resolution? Well, it's resolved by Melissa going to the lake, finding the dog, and then saving him by pulling him out. Okay, guys, we're going to stop the video here and move on to the second clip.